When Lin Yao unfolded the draft of the Soul-Pacifying Epitaph, the depths of defeated army pit were quiet to an almost frightening degree. There was no wind. No black tide whisper. No sound of battle. Even Yi Jin temporarily stopped struggling. Everyone's gaze fell on the epitaph in Lin Yao's hands. It was not an ordinary scroll of text. It was formed from every record Obsidian Village had made along the way. Grain accounts. Rosters. Responsibility books. The nameless record. The Outer Wall Death Battle roster. The First Banner Battle record. The ruling on the threefold broken order. The responsibility judgment of Black Account Road. Supplements for the numbered ones. Every part was heavy. Because it was not meant to sound stirring to the living. It was meant to let the dead know. Someone saw them. Someone recorded them. Someone had not simply written their defeat as rout. Lin Yao stood before the Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone and slowly began to speak. This epitaph does not record victory. It records loss first. As the first sentence fell, the Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone trembled faintly. The tiny carved marks across its surface lit with dim gray light. The defeat of Blackstone's outer wall was not the cowardice of a single soldier. The order was broken by the military supervisor, reinforcements were severed at the second wall, grain was lacking in the rear storehouse, and the banner fell into chaos after command was lost. The outer wall remnant army's proposal to retreat was not flight. They wished to retreat because arrows were exhausted, grain was exhausted, the commandant was dead, and more than half their men were wounded. They wished to enter the second wall not to survive by abandoning battle, but to save the wounded, reorganize, and continue fighting. A low sound of armor plates came from the depths of defeated army pit. It was like many soldiers who had died in battle slowly lifting their heads in the darkness. Zhao Tai tightened his grip on his blade hilt. For the first time, he understood how heavy the words "not flight" could be. To the living, this was only a ruling. To the dead, it might be the stone that had pressed on them for many years. Lin Yao continued reciting. The military supervisor's no-retreat order hid responsibility for the battle situation under the name of military law. It transferred the outer wall's failure onto the remnant soldiers. It obstructed a reasonable retreat and severed the wounded soldiers' path to survival. Today, it is judged as a wrong order. On the surface of the sacrificial stone, a black crack began to peel away. That was the misplaced responsibility the military supervisor's no-retreat order had pressed into defeated army pit for many years. As this sentence was read aloud, that wrong responsibility could no longer press the whole defeat onto the remnant soldiers. The second wall's sealed gate may have had its cause. There may have been internal disorder and high-risk contamination within the wall, and the sealing order may have been valid. Yet no order was returned, no outer trench was arranged to receive the wounded, and no alternative retreat path was left. There was cause for refusing entry, but responsibility for failing to respond. When this sentence was read, the response inside defeated army pit became complicated. It did not fully accept. It did not refute either. Because this was the ruling closest to the truth. It did not simply write the second wall as a criminal. Nor did it wash the second wall clean. It placed the part it should bear back where it belonged. Shen Luo stood to the side, and his eyes changed slightly. He was good at checking accounts. But Lin Yao's responsibility judgment was no longer simple account checking. It was, within a dead end where the truth could not be fully restored, doing everything possible to keep responsibility from being misplaced. Lin Yao turned to the second section. Record grain. Grain transport civilian Sun escorted grain to the outer storehouse. The grain arrived, but the document was not opened, his merit did not enter the account, and he died outside the storehouse. Today, his merit in transporting grain is restored. A dot of dry grain-colored light surfaced on the sacrificial stone. That was Sun Er's name. Many people present did not actually know Sun Er. Some had never even seen him. But at this moment, everyone knew he had delivered the grain. That was enough. Record names. Outer Wall Squad leader Chao Zhuang was not fleeing. He spoke of retreat because arrows were exhausted, grain was cut off, and wounded soldiers had no physician. He wished to gather the remnant soldiers and return to the second wall. The military supervisor wrongly judged him guilty. Today, the record is changed. Chao Zhuang proposed saving soldiers. It was not cowardly flight. A suppressed sigh came from the pit. It was like a soldier once bound beneath the wall and displayed as a warning was finally no longer called a deserter. Record the nameless. Lin Yao turned to the nameless record portion. The one with the red cord was later identified as Lin Shouhuan. A red cord on the right wrist. Her brother Lin Xiaoman testified to her name. Her body has not returned, but her remnant trace has returned. She enters the nameless supplement, awaiting burial when she can return. Liang Ping's eyes reddened at once. The half-red thread on his wrist grew faintly warm. From far away, there seemed to come a very soft female voice calling, "Xiaoman." Lin Yao did not stop. Nameless one, gray cloth belt, seen at the unregistered wooden post. The name remains unknown, but the person is still recorded. B05, numbered 1, name unknown. On the remnant plate were carved the words "Save me." B09, name unknown, remnant character Jiang. Those whose names cannot yet be restored shall have their traces recorded first. Those who cannot yet be saved shall not therefore return to the tide. The nameless record lit. Those incomplete names, incomplete traces, and incomplete lives fell like fragments of light onto the surface of the Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone. The Sacrificial Stone was no longer only a stone of an ancient battlefield. It began to carry the nameless one's Obsidian Village had restored along the way. Lin Yao turned to the banner section. The black stone left camp return character banner broke at return banner pass of defeated army pit. That banner is not nameless, and does not return to the tide. Obsidian banner does not seize its old order. It only temporarily illuminates the road of the unreturned. When the War Soul altar is established, a separate defeated army return monument will be raised. The Obsidian banner shadow token lit up. The black stone left camp return character banner fragment also trembled softly. The two banner wills did not devour each other. One old and one new. One remnant and one shadow. For a brief moment, they stood together before the sacrificial stone. At last, Lin Yao turned to the responsibility section. He Jin's external affairs black account used the name of transaction to carry out the devouring of names. Luo Wence's experimental line used the name of research to carry out number-based name obscuration and contamination transfer. Risk may be known, but responsibility cannot be fully pushed away. A signature cannot become proof allowing names to be devoured. Voluntary cannot conceal inducement. An agreement cannot exempt the experimental party from responsibility. Jin knelt in the distance, his chest rising and falling violently. He wanted to refute, but could not speak. Because the black account core had already been sealed. The transaction logic he could manipulate had been written into the responsibility book by Lin Yao line by line, and then dismantled line by line. Lin Yao put away the epitaph and recited the final portion of the expedition oath. This expedition is not for digging bones for profit. It is not for seizing souls to make soldiers. We do not use the defeated army as material, and do not use the dead as steps. Obsidian Village came here to seek the Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone, restore broken orders, record lost names, determine responsibility that had not been cleared, and return souls that had not returned. If we obtain the sacrificial stone, an epitaph will be raised. It will record the names of the defeated army. It will record the responsibility of broken orders. It will record the crime of failed reinforcement. It will record the suffering of those who did not return. Those with names shall have names restored. Those without names shall have records restored. Those bearing wrong responsibility shall have responsibility corrected. Those with merit shall have merit restored. This is our oath. When the final sentence fell, the entire Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone lit up. It was not dazzling light. It was heavy, gray-white fire with a trace of blood color. That fire ignited little by little from within the stone. The clerk fire left behind by Patient also flew out and landed on the surface of the sacrificial stone. Then Sun Er's dry-grain light, Chao Zhuang's military order gray light, Lin Xiaowan's red cord glimmer, and the remnant banner light of the Blackstone left camp return character banner all flowed into the sacrificial stone. A system prompt sounded. Draft of the Soul-Pacifying Epitaph recitation complete. Soul-Pacifying Epitaph progress, 87% to 100%. Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone recognizes Obsidian Villages taking in use. You have obtained Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone. You have obtained War Soul Fireseed Prototype, Clerk Fire. You have obtained Draft of the Soul-Pacifying Epitaph. First core material of the War Soul Altar completed. The depths of defeated army pit seemed to finally let out a breath. The remnant thoughts that had once been heavy and oppressive did not fully disappear. But they were no longer chaotic. They were temporarily gathered into the epitaph, waiting for the true War Soul altar to be established. Lin Yao reached out and pressed his hand against the Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone. The stone was colder than he expected. But beneath that coldness, there was a little fire. Not a burning flame. It was the fire of army souls not yet fully extinguished. He said quietly, "I will take you all back." The sacrificial stone trembled faintly, as if answering. Yet the instant the sacrificial stone was taken by Obsidian Village, a sharp alarm suddenly rang out around the outer edge of defeated army pit. Shi Sheng's expression changed. Something is happening outside. An urgent message came from a Dragon Court player in the distance. The rear support point is under attack. Black Tide false soldiers and an unknown mixed player force have appeared. Suspected targets, the 3 numbered ones and the sealing box containing the black account core. Lin Yao's eyes darkened. Luo Wence had indeed not truly left. He had allowed Lin Yao to take the sacrificial stone because his real follow-up move was outside. The moment the recognition in the inner layer of defeated army pit was complete, the expedition team was forced to face another choice. Retreat with the sacrificial stone. Or return to aid the rear support point. The answer needed no hesitation. Lin Yao put away the Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone. Return to support. The rear support point was established at the second camp on the southern side of the outer wall. It was not close to Obsidian Village, and not too far from defeated army pit. Its original purpose was to receive contaminated people, wounded, and sealed objects sent back by the expedition team. Aizhan, Lu Chang, several Obsidian villagers, and 2 Dragon Court players were stationed there. After Zhoumian, Xiongjian, and Fang Jian were delivered, Aizhan immediately began calming them. He had thought he was prepared. But when he truly saw Fang Jian, his heart still went cold. Even unconscious, Fang Jian occasionally recited broken numbers. 3, 7, 11. Aizhan sat beside him and corrected him again and again. Your name is Fang Jian. You are not B11. You are Fang Yakan's son. You are not a command. You are human. Every time Fang Jian heard these words, his breathing steadied a little. Zhou Mian woke earlier. She leaned against the wooden railing, her face deathly pale. The medicinal powder by Ji had left suppressed the contamination on her body, but she was still very weak. She asked Ajan, "Is this place safe?" Ajan thought about it. He did not lie. Safer than outside. Zhou Mian smiled faintly. That answer is very practical. Xiong Jian sat on the other side, with black heart armor fragments still remaining on his arm. He looked the strongest, but in truth, contamination had damaged his body badly. He asked quietly, "If those people come to catch us, will you hand us over?" Ajan looked at him. "No." Xiong Jian was silent for a moment. "Why?" Ajan was the one stumped by the question. After thinking for a bit, he said, "Because you have already entered the roster. Obsidian Village's roster is not something others can take away casually." Those words made all three of them fall silent. Especially Zhou Mian. She lowered her head and looked at the identity tether on her wrist. It read, "Zhou Mian, temporarily anchored. Not B03. Zhou Mian." To her, that was more concrete than any promise. But safety did not last long. Before dusk, the Dragon Court player patrolling the perimeter suddenly raised an alarm. Black shadows appeared in the fog to the south. At first, everyone thought they were low-level black tide shadows. But soon, they saw the shapes clearly. Black tide false soldiers. And several players wearing gray cloaks. Those players moved quickly and were clearly trained. They did not clash head-on with the support point, but split up to encircle it. Their targets were very clear. The three numbered ones. And the sealing box holding the black account core. Lu Chang reacted fastest. He immediately stuffed the sealing box into a spare stone chest and had two villagers move it to the rear. "Do not stand there. Activate the wooden barricade." The surroundings of the rear support point had originally been only a temporary wooden fence. But Lu Chang had left mechanisms in the design. Several wooden stakes were pulled up, forming simple cheval de frise barriers. The Dragon Court players drew bows and fired, forcing back the first wave of grey-cloaked players approaching. Ajan stood in front of the three numbered ones. He was not actually skilled at combat. He only had a short blade and several name-stabilizing talismans. But he did not retreat. Xiong Jian struggled to his feet. "Give me a weapon." Ajan looked at him. Xiong Jian grinned, his face very pale. "Didn't I say it? If those people come to catch me, I do not want to lie there and be caught again." Zhou Mian also supported herself against the wooden railing and stood. "I cannot die." Fang Jian had not fully woken, but his fingers gripped his identity tether tightly. Asia knew they could not truly fight right now. But making them lie still and wait would only let fear swallow them again. So he handed two short sticks to Xiong Jian and Zhou Mian. "Do not rush out. Only guard yourselves." Xiong Jian nodded. "Fine." The first wave of black tide false soldiers slammed into the barricade. The wooden fence shook. Lu Cheng led people to brace it with long forks. The grey-cloaked players used the opportunity to circle to the rear. One of them held a small sealing device and rushed straight toward the stone chest. A Dragon Court player tried to stop him, but was held back by another grey cloak. When Ajan saw that person approaching the sealing box, anxiety struck him. He flung out a name-stabilizing talisman directly. The name-stabilizing talisman was not an attack talisman. But when it landed on the grey-cloaked player, the other person's movements actually paused. Because that player also had faint contamination on him. The talisman made his own name briefly surface. A prompt appeared on his chest. Wei. The player immediately tore off the talisman and cursed angrily, "Do not touch me." Ajan froze for a moment. He was contaminated? No. He was a player half-voluntarily working for Luo Wence or the Second Research Group. But he had also been marked by contamination. Ajan suddenly understood that these grey cloaks were not ordinary hired muscle. They might also be people bound by black tide experiments, agreements, debts, or synchronization benefits. But there was no time to dig deeper now. That player charged toward the stone chest again. Ajan gritted his teeth and stepped forward to stop him. His short blade was weak. After only 2 blocks, he was kicked down. Xiongjian roared and forced himself to crash forward, knocking that player back. The black hard armor residue on his arm appeared again. Ajan's expression changed. Xiongjian, report your name. Xiongjian gritted his teeth. Xiongjian. Nickname? Iron Bear. What are you not? Not B07. The hard armor did not continue spreading. Xiongjian panted heavily, but smiled. This thing can still be used a little. Ajan shouted, you cannot use it much. On the other side, Zhou Mian also encountered danger. A grey-cloaked player recognized her. B03, recover. Zhou Mian's face instantly turned white. She gripped the short stick tightly, and her body instinctively took on the old attack posture of B03. Ajan immediately shouted, Zhou Mian. Zhou Mian trembled. Why did you join the experiment? Medical fees. What do you need to live for? Zhou Mian gritted her teeth. To confirm whether the money arrived. And what else? Zhou Mian froze. Ajan roared, and to go back and see your younger sister. Zhou Mian's eyes cleared. She did not rush out. Instead, she struck the grey-cloaked player's wrist with the short stick and retreated back inside the fence. My name is Zhou Mian. Not B03. The black chi on her body was pressed back down. The rear support point's defensive line was on the verge of collapse. 2 of Lu Cheng's barriers had been torn down. 1 Dragon Court player was wounded. The stone chest holding the sealing box had nearly been snatched. Ajan knew they could not hold much longer. He gritted his teeth and took out a temporary return roster order Lin Yao had left at the support point. This page had originally been for use when contaminated people lost control. Now, he directly pasted it onto the central wooden pillar of the support point. Everyone at the rear support point, report your names. Lu Chang reacted first. Lu Chang. The Dragon Court players followed. Jiang Tuo. Lin Yao. The villagers also shouted their names. Shi Zhen. Ma Lu. Ajan shouted last. Ajan. He paused, then added. Obsidian Village Contamination Commer. The temporary return roster order lit. The entire rear support point was covered by a faint gray-white glow. The Black Tide False Soldiers' offensive paused for an instant. The grey-cloaked players were also forced back. They were not afraid of an ordinary defensive line. But they feared this kind of order that could write people back into names and duties. At that moment, Zhao Tai's roar came from afar. Entrenchment Squad 1. The black fog was torn open. The main expedition team had finally returned. Zhao Tai took the lead, bringing Entrenchment Squad 1 crashing into the flank of the Black Tide False Soldiers. Lin Yao followed close behind, the Obsidian Banner Shadow token glowing in his hand. Rear support point returns to roster. Sealed objects do not move. Numbered ones are not surrendered. Black Tide recovery orders are not recognized. The Banner's Shadow token pressed down. The battlefield situation reversed instantly. Seeing that things had turned against them, the grey-cloaked players immediately retreated. But one of them was too slow and was intercepted by Shi Shang from the side. Zhao Tai pressed him down with one slash. Lin Yao walked forward and lifted his cloak. It was a male player in his 20s. His face was pale, and his eyes were startled and frightened. On his chest was a small number plate. Not the B series. A new letter. R04. Luo Wence's new series. Lin Yao's eyes turned cold. Luo Wence had indeed begun the next stage. And this time, they were no longer only numbered ones. They had been sent to recover people in the Black Account Corps. The enemy of the second season was evolving. When R04 was pressed to the ground, his first reaction was not begging for mercy. He bit down on a black capsule hidden in his teeth. Shi Shang's eyes were sharp, and he grabbed the man's jaw at once. But he was still a little too late. The capsule burst, and black qi poured from the corner of R04's mouth. Bai Ji's expression changed. Self-destruct contamination. Guan immediately rushed over and poured talisman water directly into R04's mouth. R04 struggled violently. The number plate on his chest released a piercing sound. R04, mission failed. Clear. Clear. Zhao Tai cursed, again with the numbers. Lin Yao immediately opened the purification roster. But this time, the roster barely reacted. The number structure on R04 was different from the B series. The B series used numbers to replace names, then relied on someone like Fang Jian, a language abnormality carrier, to maintain synchronization. The R series seemed to have gone a step further. They were not merely numbered ones. They were missionized recovery units. R might mean recovery. It might also mean retrieval. Whichever it was, it meant Luo Wence's experiment had entered a new stage. R04's eyes began to turn black. He repeated again and again. Clear. Clear. Mission failed. Clear. Asian saw this and his face went pale. He does not want to die. Lin Yao looked at him. Asian said urgently, he is being ordered to self-destruct. It is not him choosing to bite it. This point was very important. If R04 had been ordered to self-destruct, then the responsibility ruling could not place the whole self-destruction action on him. Lin Yao opened the reality responsibility subvolume. R04, identity unknown. Missionized recovery unit. Black Tide self-destruct capsule hidden in tooth. Self-destruction command triggered by numbered mission system. Degree of individual autonomous awareness remains to be investigated. After these lines were written, the black qi on R04 eased slightly. But it still could not stop the self-destruction. Because they lacked a name. Shen Luo was searching the objects on him. Soon, he found a thin metal card. On the card were only the number and a string of transaction codes. No name. Shen Luo's expression was very ugly. But there is a mission source. Luo Wence experimental line. Second Research Group External Recovery Agreement. Targets, B03, B07, B11, Black Account Corps. Lin Yao asked, can you trace his identity? Shen Luo shook his head. Not on sight. R04's body convulsed harder. Bai Ji gritted her teeth. If we do not stabilize him, he will become a black tide shadow. Lin Yao looked at R04. He had no name. No family clues. No nickname. They did not even know whether he had been voluntary in the past. B05 had at least left Save Me. R04 had nothing. Only mission. Recovery. Clear. This was deeper name erasure than the B series. Lin Yao opened the nameless record. For the nameless, record their traces first, he said quietly. R04, ordered to self-destruct after recovery mission failure. Black Tide capsule hidden in tooth. Number plate on chest. Identity unknown. Status, undergoing self-destruct contamination. The nameless record lit faintly. But it was not enough. R04 was still losing control. Ajan suddenly knelt in front of R04. He pressed his hands firmly on the man's shoulders. Listen to me. R04's eyes were completely black. Clear. Ajan roared, a failed mission does not mean you have to die. You are not a mission. You are a person who was sent here. R04 did not react. Ajan's eyes reddened with urgency. It was as if he were speaking to his past self. I almost did not know who I was once, too. But as long as there is even a little reaction left, you can be pulled back. It is all right if you do not have a name right now. Do not die first. Do not clear first. Stay first. Stay, and then we will find out who you are. When the final sentence fell, the nameless record suddenly lit. Not because of a name. Because of the will to stay. Lin Yao's heart moved. He immediately added to the nameless record. Temporary name, stay. Reason, before self-destruction, contamination. Ajan asked him to stay first and wait for his name to be investigated. After the words fell, R04's self-destruction voice paused for a beat. Stay. Baiji seized the opportunity and pressed calming herb powder against the number plate on his chest. Gun sealed the black chi in his mouth with talisman water. Lin Yao took out a sealing box and sealed the residue of the black tide capsule he had spat out. R04's body shook violently, then finally passed out. The black chi had not fully scattered, but the self-destruction had stopped. A system prompt surfaced. Nameless record temporary name effective. R04 temporary name, stay. Self-destruct contamination halted. Hint, a temporary name cannot replace a true name for long. Identity must be investigated later. Ajan collapsed to the ground, breathing hard. Baiji looked at him, something shaken in her eyes. Just now, you saved him. Ajan shook his head. Only held him for now. Lin Yao looked at the new entry on the nameless record. Stay. This was not a name. But it was an anchor. The red cord was a feature anchor. Stay was a will anchor. When a person's name, relatives, and nickname had all been stripped away, perhaps the most basic will of "do not be cleared" could first be used to drag them back from the black tide. This was a new discovery. And it also proved that Ajan's contamination calmer path was more important than Lin Yao had expected. Luo Wence's series might not be directly savable by the roster. But someone like Ajan, who had once been swallowed by namelessness and then pulled back, could understand that state of struggling at the edge of namelessness. A system prompt surfaced. Ajan duty deepened. Contamination calmer becomes nameless calmer. Ability direction can help establish temporary names and will anchors, delaying deep namelessness and missionized clearing. Ajan froze. He had not expected his duty to advance at a time like this. Zhao Tai walked over and patted his shoulder. Not bad, Ajan. Ajan smiled bitterly. My legs are still shaking. You saved him while shaking. Zhao Tai said it very directly. Those words steadied Ajan's heart quite a bit. After the battle at the rear support point ended, Lin Yao quickly redeployed. R04, now temporarily named Stay, had to be sent back to Obsidian Village. Fang Jian, Zhoumian, and Xiong Jian could not remain near the outer wall either. The Black Tide false soldiers and Luo Wence's recovery team already knew their location. Lin Yao decided to have the rear support team withdraw to Obsidian Village. Lu Chang would escort the sealed objects and the wounded. Dragon Court players would guard them. Ajan would return with the team, because R04 needed his continued calming. Ajan hesitated somewhat. Then defeated Army Pit. Lin Yao said, "Your current mission is to bring them back to Obsidian Village. Especially stay." Ajan nodded. Understood. When Fang Jian half-woken heard that Ajan would bring them back, he murmured, "I am not a mission?" Ajan answered, "No." Zhou Mian asked quietly, "After we go back, can we check whether my younger sister's money arrived?" Lin Yao said, "Yes. I will have Shen Luo check the funds." Shen Luo frowned. "Me?" Lin Yao looked at him. "You are best at checking accounts." Shen Luo was silent for a moment. "Fine." Xiong Jian leaned against the wooden railing inside. "Can debts be checked too?" Shen Luo said coldly, "As long as the account still exists, it can be checked." Xiong Jian laughed. "Then I really owe you people quite a bit." Zhao Tai said, "Stay alive first, then we calculate." Very soon, the rear support team began withdrawing toward Obsidian Village. Lin Yao led the main team to prepare to return to the depths of defeated Army Pit. The Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone had already been obtained. But the Sacrificial Stone fragment Luo Wence had taken was still sealed in a box. He Jin was under control. The R series had appeared. This expedition had already gone far beyond its original objective. Lin Yao could have chosen to withdraw directly. But Luo Wence had left more traces in the depths of defeated Army Pit. And He Jin had said that Luo Wence had already obtained the first sacrificial stone fragment. The fragment sealed in Lin Yao's hand might not be all of it. If they did not confirm that, a greater problem might be left for the future. Su Qingli reminded him, "The sacrificial stone has been obtained. Continuing deeper is very risky." Lin Yao looked toward defeated Army Pit. "I know. But since Luo Wence could send the R series to the rear support point, it means he still has a route. At the very least, we need to find out where he withdrew from." Shen Luo added, "And we need to find out how many sacrificial stone fragments he took." Lin Yao nodded. "Right." So the team split into two routes. The rear support team brought the contaminated, wounded, and sealed objects back to Obsidian Village. The main team returned to defeated Army Pit to confirm Luo Wence's remaining route. This time, they were not going to take the sacrificial stone. They were going to cut off a tail. Luo Wence's experimental tail could not be left in defeated Army Pit like this. After the rear support team withdrew, the outer edge of defeated Army Pit became emptier. Lin Yao stood on the southern side of the outer wall and watched Ajan and the others escort Zhou Mian, Xiong Jian, Fang Jian, and R04 away. R04 was fixed to a simple stretcher. The number plate on his chest had already been sealed, but it could not be removed. If it was pulled off by force, it might trigger a second layer clearing command. Ajan sat beside the stretcher and repeated softly again and again. "Your temporary name is Stay. You are not R04. Do not clear. Stay first." The sentence sounded simple. Even a little clumsy. But to R04, this was the only anchor he had right now. Lin Yao did not turn away until the rear support team disappeared into the outer wall passage. "Move." The main team entered defeated Army Pit again. This time, the atmosphere was different. The Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone had already been taken away, and the pressure in the depths of defeated Army Pit had lowered greatly. The threefold broken order had been released. The contamination of Return Banner Pass had been removed. Black Account Road had collapsed. The blank military register had been broken. But that did not mean it was safe. Because what Luo Wence left behind was not simple contamination. It was an experimental route. The most troublesome thing about an experimental route was that it had purpose. It would not seep randomly like ordinary black tide. It would collect data, recover samples, transfer materials, and even set clearing mechanisms for failure. Shi Shang was responsible for tracking Luo Wence's withdrawal route. Shen Luo was responsible for identifying Shen Group External Affairs secret marks and experimental markers. Su Qingli and the ritual writer were responsible for judging the resonance of sacrificial stone fragments. Zhao Tai led Entrenchment Squad 1 as guards. Lin Yao recorded everything along the way. He had a very clear feeling. After this expedition ended, Obsidian Village's understanding of the Black Tide would be forced to upgrade. In the first season, the Black Tide was contamination. In the early part of the second season, the Black Tide False Army was a nameless army. Now, Luo Wence had turned it into experimental technology. That was the most frightening part. When a disaster was actively used by human forces, its danger became higher than natural spread. Shi Shang stopped before a cracked stone. Here. Behind the cracked stone was a very narrow fissure. A normal person would find it difficult to pass. But if one used some sort of shrinking item, or was an agility-type player, one could barely crawl through. Shi Shang pointed at the edge of the fissure. Fresh scrape marks. Shen Luo crouched to inspect. Moisture-proof powder too. He Jin's people passed through. Su Qingli took out a talisman paper and pressed it beside the fissure. The paper turned faintly black. There is aura from sacrificial stone fragments inside. Lin Yao's gaze sharpened. Luo Wence carried something away through here. Zhao Tai looked at the fissure. Can we chase? Shi Shang shook his head. Too narrow. The main force cannot pass. I can enter. Lin Yao frowned. It would be too risky for Shi Shang to go in. If there were R-series recovery units or self-destruct contamination devices inside the fissure, he could easily be trapped to death. Lin Yao asked Su Qingli, "Can we scout it?" Su Qingli nodded. "I can use a paper spirit." She took out a long, narrow paper talisman and folded it into a small bird. The paper bird flew into the fissure. Everyone waited quietly. A moment later, Su Qingli's expression shifted slightly. Behind the fissure is not a passage. It is a short-distance transfer point. Lin Yao asked, "To where?" Su Qingli closed her eyes and sensed. The direction leans south. It should lead to some temporary base in the southern Blackstone wasteland. Shen Luo immediately took out the map. Then it is near a Shin Group transfer point. Lin Yao looked at the map. Defeated Army Pit was not Luo Wence's endpoint. It was only a sampling site. The true experiment and transfer base was at the southern transfer point. He Jin and Luo Wence had connected these two places long ago. This also explained why Luo Wence could suddenly appear in defeated Army Pit and then withdraw so quickly. He did not take the normal road at all. He had a withdrawal route built from Shin Group External Affairs routes and special transfer items. Lin Yao asked, "Can it be destroyed?" Su Qingli looked at the fissure. It can be sealed temporarily. But if the other side still exists, they may reopen it. Seal it. Su Qingli did not ask further. She and the Su ritual writer arranged road sealing talismans together. Lin Yao took out the blank military register remnant page, black account road fragments, and ash from the outer layer of the sacrificial stone fragments sealing box as reverse sealing materials. These were all contamination traces left along Luo Wence's route. Now they were being used in reverse to block his route. The road sealing talismans lit. The fissure gradually contracted. Finally, it became a black stone mark. Southern transfer fissure of defeated army pit has been sealed. Hint, this seal is temporary. If the southern transfer point still exists, it may be reopened. Lin Yao was not surprised. The next target was already clear. The southern transfer point. But not now. The expedition team had already completed its main objective, fought multiple battles, and was carrying high-risk items such as Ijin, the Black Account Core, and Sacrificial Stone fragments. Continuing south now would be reckless. Lin Yao gave the order. Withdraw to Obsidian Village. Zhao Tai nodded. He actually wanted to keep chasing too. But now he understood what mission boundaries meant. The sacrificial stone had been obtained. The fissure had been sealed. The enemy route had been confirmed. It was time to withdraw. The expedition team began the return journey. He Jin's hands were bound, and Wang Shan and Li Feng guarded him. Shen Luo watched him the whole way. He Jin's face was gray and defeated, but his eyes remained gloomy. He suddenly spoke. You are bringing me back. How do you plan to deal with me? Lin Yao did not turn around. Into the responsibility judgment zone. He Jin laughed lowly. Interrogate me? Not interrogate, Lin Yao said. Judge responsibility. He Jin said coldly, is there a difference? Shen Luo answered for Lin Yao. There is. Interrogating you asks whether you are guilty. Judging responsibility returns each thing you have done to where it belongs. You cannot escape, and no one else will be made to bear all of it for you. He Jin's expression grew even uglier. He would rather be cursed as a villain. He did not want to be written clearly line by line. Because curses could still be refuted. When things were written clearly, he could only face them. On the return route, the expedition team passed Return Banner Pass. Return Banner Pass no longer blocked the road. After the Blackstone left camp, return character banner fragment had been taken by Lin Yao, only broken shields and military tags remained on the pass. But this time, when everyone walked through, the military tags chimed softly. As if sending them off. Liang Ping stopped and bowed to Return Banner Pass. Zhao Tai did not urge him. Because he knew Liang Ping was not delaying. He was recording the names from this road into his own heart. Farther out was the outer edge of defeated army pit. The place where Patient had handed over the military document was empty. But a little gray-white fire trace had appeared there. Clerk Fire had already entered the Soul-Pacifying Epitaph. Yet the trace it left behind remained. The Su ritual writer carefully took a little fire trace ash. This can be used for lighting the War Soul altar. Lin Yao nodded. Record it into materials. Shen Luo could not help saying, you people really record everything. Zhao Tai turned and glared at him. If we do not record it, people like you will take it and sell it again. Shen Luo shrugged. I cannot refute that. When the team left defeated army pit, the sky was already close to night. In the direction of Obsidian Village, a little dark red banner light could be faintly seen. That was the main banner guarded by Gao Mu. When Lin Yao saw that little banner light, his heart eased slightly as well. This expedition was too heavy. The Remnant Army Sacrificial Stone. Clerk Fire. He Jin. The Black Account Core. Sacrificial Stone Fragments. R04, temporarily named Stay. Every one of these would change the direction of what came next in the second season. What they were bringing back was not only material. It was greater trouble. But this was the price of a territory's growth. The more it could bear, the more things would come looking for it.